Good morning, everybody. We're going to just start again and to go over these slides again. My name is Elizabeth White. I am the Quality Improvement Network Manager here at OSSI in the Division of Early Learning. And I'm going to introduce just an overview of the QIN, which we call the Quality Improvement Network, to lay some groundwork before we get into more details about what's required for this grant. So the QIN was developed in 2015. It's an innovative initiative to enhance the quality of infant and toddler care by supporting the child development standards and meeting Head Start program performance standards. The QIN was established as part of the Early Head Start Child Care Partnership Grant. So you will hear us refer to the Head Start program performance standards as a matter of implementing and monitoring early Head Start in these centers throughout this morning. And it's really important to keep in mind that the aim of this grant is to further early Head Start. The district supports innovative investments in early learning and maintains a targeted focus on children experiencing homelessness, children with special needs, children in foster care, or children in families with very low incomes who are especially vulnerable. That is who we are looking to serve through this grant, and so we need you to keep that in mind as you read through the applications. The funds are made available through the District of Columbia local funds and federal funds. If you want further information, we have cited the code here for you. Okay, now we're going to look at the request for applications. We have cited a few pages in here that we want to highlight for you. If you are looking at the RFA on page 13, we talk about what the hubs are responsible for. Now, the hub will be responsible for implementing a hub-based model to support child care partners in the network to further aim early Head Start, which includes providing services that we refer to as ERSIA, which is eligibility, recruitment, selection, enrollment, and attendance, continuous, comprehensive, high-quality services, job-embedded professional development, and technical assistance. To be clear, when we say hub, we are referring to our applicants. So the applicants in this grant are applying to be the hub, the one who does the monitoring and implementing. Throughout the documents, they will be referred to as the hub. It may be interchangeable with applicant. But when we're looking at the purpose of the funds, through the next few pages, when it says the hub, that's who we're referring to. And again, please feel free to jot down and send any questions as we can pause and answer them. Looking at the next, slide 8, still on page 13 of the RFA. This goes into more detail as far as the services that are meant to support a full range of health, nutrition, and family engagement services. A child and their family's needs from birth through the age of 36 months. The services can be delivered from one of two main models. So you will see the applicants describe how they can best deliver these services. They can do it either as a citywide hub. Well, if they do that, they will describe how they will provide services to both child development centers and homes, or child development homes or homes. They don't have to be both. Again, we left that open to them, so you should see a variety of service descriptions. They can also apply to be a neighborhood-based home, and this is where the recipient of funds would serve as a hub for the designated neighborhood area. And we have highlighted the wards that they can apply to serve. And again, they can serve for homes or centers or both. That is up to the applicant.
One quick note for those of you that may not be familiar with the DC context. In our city, we have 8 wards. So you can see everything here is named but Ward 3. So they are we have 4 quadrants, northwest, northeast, southwest, and southeast. And within that, even more specifically, these are wards, which are kind of clusters of neighborhoods, as I would define them. Just a quick footnote for those of you not familiar with DC.
If we jump forward to page 16 of the RFA, it will explain to you what the allowable use of funds is, which is also something that we need to pay attention to as we're reading through the applicants. The grants funds shall only be used to support activities delineated in Section 1.3.1 under Hub Responsibilities Overview and the budget included in the applicant's submission. Funds may be used for repairs and minor renovations to facilities to ensure that physical environment and facilities of all the Quinn Child Care Partners meet all the Head Start program performance standards, including requirements for square footage, health and safety, appropriate crib and sleeping spacing and arrangements. Again, you will see that acronym HSPPS throughout the document. That is referring to the Head Start program performance standards. We also go through eligibility and the award period on page 15 and 16. For eligibility, we're looking at anyone from a nonprofit, for-profit, or faith-based, community-based organizations to apply. The grant period is for 5 years. It will end on September 30th of 2024. And each budget year, there will be a reapplication. Funds will be available at least between 2.3 in local funds. That includes a potential awards of 500 to 2.3. We also are anticipating federal funds in the amount of 750 to 900,000. OSSI anticipates including 1 to 5 awards from this funding opportunity, and OSSI maintains the right to adjust the grant award and amount based on funding availability. Changes from prior years of this grant. So as you may know, this is the second 5-year cycle of the grant. So we did make changes in what was an option for the applicants to describe as far as services. They can choose from a citywide or a neighborhood-based, as we described previously. They have their choice of service delivery if they choose a citywide hub, and in either model, they provide comprehensive services directly or through contractual agreements with other organizations. That will be important as you see applicants who have partnered with other applicants, and that's the model that they're using. If we move on to hub responsibilities, this also can be found on page 16. They do need to, throughout the grant cycle, meet with OSSI and Dell staff on a regular basis. This is outlined for them in the RFA, what they have to document and describe to show us the program's success, unmet needs, barriers, and problems encountered. There are monthly and quarterly reports that they will have to follow that OSSI will implement once the grant is awarded. They have to develop and implement the delivery of services, including the URSIA, which was described in a prior slide, the comprehensive services, job-embedded professional development, and technical assistance in the Quinn. They also are responsible for providing professional development and practice-based coaching for all teachers with an emphasis in continuity of care and relational learning. And finally, they have to ensure that at least one full-time engagement specialist is used per 40 enrolled infant or toddler. We go on to slide 14. This also describes their continued responsibility. We have to ensure that the Quinn Child Care Partner staff carry out a minimum of 2 annual home visits and 2 parent-teacher conferences. They have to support the infant and toddler developmental delays and disabilities. They are required to meet full Quinn enrollment. They are required to have transition plans for each child that transitions from 0 to 3 to 3 to 5 program. They also have to ensure that infants and toddlers retain services throughout the transition. Now, all of these responsibilities that we're going through, they are in the RFA, and they all tie back to the Head Start program performance standards. So you will see that, again, repeated throughout the document. On slide 15, we provide ongoing and appropriate orientation of the Head Start program performance services. We're looking for them to assist OSSI in recruiting licensed child development facilities in 1 or more of the wards if necessary. They have to ensure that the Quinn teachers meet required staffing qualifications. They have to ensure that the physical environment and the facilities of the Quinn Child Care Partners meet all the Head Start program performance standards. And they have to support that all the Quinn Child Care Partners maintain full compliance with OSSI child care licensing regulations. They have to ensure that all Quinn Child Care Partners maintain the Head Start program performance group size and ratio requirements and use research-based curriculum and assessments. So again, all of these responsibilities should be outlined, and there should be a plan in the application that says how they are going to deliver these services, again with an emphasis in furthering early Head Start. We move on to slide 16. Again, they have to provide the supplementary equipment, supplies, technology, and materials, conduct quarterly assessments, conduct quality improvement plans, ensure children's physical, mental, and oral health needs are met. There should be a plan for that in the application. Participate in any federal review, monitoring visits, and mandated training. Participate in evaluations of the program, and comply with all federal requirements for data and reporting of the program, financial and administrative data and information for Quinn Child Care Partners. They have to collaborate with OSSI on developing solicitation materials to be posted and awarded by September 1st. This also loops back into URSIA, which we described earlier. They also have to collect information using a management software approved by Head Start and report monthly to OSSI on participants' demographics, enrollment at each child care partner, and other reporting requirements related to family services, coaching, nutrition, health, etc. Grant objectives. So before I go on to grant objectives, I really want to emphasize that they need to communicate their understanding and experience in the Head Start program performance standards and with early Head Start. So that's what those slides that we just covered, that was outlining the different parts of early Head Start, and that's what we're looking for specifics from our applicants. As far as the grant objectives, we're looking at slide 18 and page 18 in the RFA. Ensure all infants and toddlers served in Quinn Child Care Partners are in safe and healthy environments and receive continuous nurturing care. Support and retain qualified early learning workforce with professional development, coaching, and technical assistance. Maintain the use of evidence-based family engagement strategies. Ensure all child care partners meet or exceed evidence-based quality program standards. Ensure families are linked and receiving comprehensive services, and looking to improve the health and well-being of our Quinn teachers. If we we're going to skip ahead in the RFA to page 35. We're looking at program-specific assurances. Applicants are required to attest the following specific assurances. All laborers and mechanics employed by contractors or subcontractors in the construction or renovation of facilities to be used to carry out Head Start programs shall be paid wages at not less than those prevailing on similar construction in the locality as determined by the Secretary of Labor. Again, we have cited these acts and specific statutes if you wanted to look further into them, but this summary really gives you what you need to be looking for. And you can find that on page 35.
Okay, so I'm going to talk a little bit about the process for reviewing. Just to explain one more time, everything that Liz mentioned is really what we are legally asking the applicant, and if they're awarded, the grant recipient to be doing. So what Liz said is accurate, that they're going to be demonstrating their plan to get the child care partners in the network to meet the Head Start performance standards, and they're doing that through all of those things. So that details all of the standards that they will be held accountable for. I'm going to walk through a couple things more immediately relevant for you all. So the application due date is coming up. It's Thursday, August 8th at 3 p.m. So we will get the applications from the reviewers on the applications from the applicants on Thursday. What we will do is we will do a quick scan for eligibility and then distribute them to you all. I'm going to go into EGMS and walk you through what that looks like and how you conduct that review. So we're going to get the applications to you hopefully the next day, August 9th, and we're giving you 2 weeks to review. So we want you to read them and do your scoring rubrics, fill in your scores, your comments, and submit all of that by August 23rd. If you can do it earlier, that would be great. We need to be awarding this grant in September. So the quicker that we can do this external review, the better for us. So rubrics are due the 23rd, and then if we need to have a facilitated discussion, that will happen on the 26th. So I'm just giving you some dates. I know they're not on the slides. They were in the original email that I sent to everyone, and I'll make sure that they're in another email today as well. A facilitated discussion needs to happen if we get scores that deviate by more than 1 standard deviation. So I think it comes out to 10 points out of 100. So if we get 3 scores from 3 external reviewers and they look something like 70, 75, and 32, we would need to have a facilitated discussion. So I'll talk about what that looks like a little bit later, but I just wanted to give a quick overview of those key dates. So where you guys figure into this grant competition, you are our review panel. So this is what OSSI and DC government does in general with competitive grant applications. We look for experts in the field or subject matter experts, and you help us review and evaluate the applications. At the same time, we'll also be looking at them internally, and we will make our own final decisions, but your scores and comments will be made available. They'll be made available to us. They can be made available to the applicants, and they also could be made available to the public if they put forward a Freedom of Information request. So an applicant can request their own scores, but actually they can also request another organization's scores through that kind of request. So please remember that when you're putting in your comments. We want them to be constructive and detailed and analytical so that they can either help us as we're picking the winner to kind of refine their application and identify areas of strengths and weaknesses, or they can be used for unsuccessful applicants who want to learn from this experience and do better next time. So our expectations of the reviewers is to use your expertise in evaluating the applications, maintain confidentiality of this process, of the applications you're reviewing and the information in them. If you have any conflicts, there is a way to indicate that, and I'll show you directly in EGMS, but also let me know. We need you to adhere to those deadlines that we mentioned. That's really important for us to get the grant up and running and awarded. We want you to independently read, score, and evaluate the applications based on what's in the scoring rubric. So not something else, but really based on the scores assigned and the criteria identified in each part of the scoring rubric. Like I said, please be mindful that the scores and comments are going to help us determine what applications will be funded. So we do have the final decision, but your scores and comments are extremely helpful. And then make sure that you review the conflict of interest policy, which is coming up on another slide. These are some more expectations and requirements. Please read the application in its entirety. Look only at the information in the application. So don't say, you know, this organization says that they have experience in X, Y, and Z, but I'm going to do some external research on their website to verify that. That's not within the scope of what we need you guys to do. You will provide comments and a numeric score for each criteria. And like I said, we want constructive written comments, including suggestions for improvement, and also identifying weaknesses. Okay, a couple more things. We want to make sure that your score matches up to your written comments. So if you're writing a pretty negative comment, but then give full 10 out of 10, that would be a little bit confusing. And we'll talk about that in EGMS and a couple things to check for. You can do partial credit. So you could do 5 or 6 out of 10, but you can't do 5.5 out of 10. That's not going to work. More information about helpful comments, being specific, rather than just repeating what was included in the response, but giving really an analytical lens. So not just they identified and described the required elements, but were those elements sufficient to be able to monitor or run the program. The comments have to be based on the scoring criteria in the rubric. And here are some characteristics of high quality comments. We're looking for comments that are objective, neutral, unbiased. They are very specific about which elements of the criteria the applicant did or did not meet. And the numeric scores are consistent with your comments. We talked about this a little bit already, analytical rather than descriptive. So telling us not only is it there, but what is the quality of it. Detailed, written in full sentences, limited to what's in the application, and constructive, courteous, and understandable. It should be in here later, but please try not to be distracted by things like spelling and grammar. Quinn has a focus on English language learners and linguistically and culturally diverse populations. So we wouldn't want our readers to be distracted by, a grammatical mistake in English or someone's writing style or something like that. So please really try to focus on the content rather than those kinds of things. Characteristics of low quality comments. So just kind of the opposite of what we were saying. Too little documentation, incomplete sentences, too short. Repeating the selection criteria instead of providing an analytical breakdown of the quality, not related to the criteria, like I just said, too focused on grammar and spelling, inconsistent with your scores, inaccurate, contains judgments outside the scope of the responsibility of the viewer, or very importantly, would be inappropriate to share. So we really don't want something that's like, this is horrible, because the applicant can see that. Okay, so these are some examples of acceptable comments. These are actually erring on the side a little bit of descriptive and could get more analytical. So I'll let you guys read these. And if you look at the scoring rubric in the RFA, and we're also about to walk through the scoring rubric, you'll see that there are required elements in each section that we want them to cover. So you're telling us, did they cover the required elements, and then also how, the quality of their response. Here's another example of acceptable reviewer comments, so I'll let you all read through this. And I'll also be sharing this recording and the PowerPoint after our discussion. Here's another one for the section Applicant Organizational Knowledge. Again, I'm not going to read these to you. I'll just kind of pause for a minute to let you look at them, and I'll share this PowerPoint afterwards. So these are all really just meant to be examples for you of what we're looking for. So how you can define both the strengths and the weaknesses in high quality comments. Okay, so in terms of the point value, this is a matrix that some folks use at OSSE to just guide you. So if something is out of 5 points, you could start on the left-hand side, 0, and then the right-hand side would be 5. Similarly, if it's something is out of 10 points, you could start on the left-hand side at a 0 and then go 0, 2, 4, 6. Oh, I guess not. I guess you could do 0, 2.55, 7.5, 10 to break it down. But this is just a guide for you to figure, this is something out of 10, and I don't love this response, but I don't know if it's a 5 or a 7. So the difference for me, if something's out of 10, would be, is it fair or is it good? And that can help you make that distinction. So I would say use this matrix as you find it useful. I think once you get into the scoring, you'll kind of see when you look at different applications, what is a 10 out of 10, what is a 5 out of 10, and you'll kind of get there. This is we're getting into the scoring rubric. I'm going to have Liz jump in a couple after this slide. And you'll see in EGMS how we've designed the grant platform for you. So you don't need to remember this or refer back to the RFA when you're scoring. It will all be in front of you, and I'll show you how that looks. The executive summary is the only section that's not scored. What we want here is we want the applicants to give us who they are, the target population, and the model. Liz mentioned they can apply as citywide or neighborhood-based. So the 1A, 1B, 1C is the citywide approach, and if they're serving centers and homes, centers only or homes only, and then option 2 is the neighborhood based. So they're telling us which one of those things they're doing, how they're providing the services, and a plan to ensure that the services are uninterrupted, because we have families and providers currently in the Quinn, and this grant recipient would either be continuing that work or taking over for the current grantee. So I'm going to let Liz walk you through the rest of the scoring rubric.
Hello, everybody. Again, when we go through this, you will be reminded that the purpose of this grant is to further the aim of Early Head Start. And you will see Head Start and the Head Start program performance standards repeated and referenced to throughout the rubric. So if we're looking at information about the organization, maximum of 10 points. For their mission and history, we're really looking to see what the applicants it's Monday morning, guys. How they're relevant, how the organization's programmatic structure is relevant to this particular grant and how it plays into supporting Early Head Start, and what their long-term strategy is to improve the quality of infant and toddler care in the district through the Head Start program performance standards. And that's a maximum of 5 points. For strategic logic, we're looking at describing the strategic logic for the application, for the applicant's organization to manage the grant at this point in the organization's history. So although they may share what they have done in the past, where are they today and how can they support the Quinn model? Next is the organizational knowledge. This will play heavily into the Head Start program performance standards. We're looking to how can they provide professional technical assistance and monitoring to the child development facilities. They have to help them be able to align to the Head Start program performance standards. So they should be mentioning their experience and how they have implemented these in the past. You will see by what they are writing whether they are extremely familiar with the standards, and that should all play out throughout this 35 points. For technical assistance, we're looking at a maximum of 10 points. For organizational expertise in early childhood development and the Head Start program performance standards is a maximum of 10 points. Again, they can apply to work in a particular ward or throughout the city, and we service wards 1, 2, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8. As Tara mentioned earlier, the only ward that is not listed is Ward 3. Applicants should demonstrate knowledge of similar programs implemented in other cities nationwide and discuss their best practices. Again, we're looking at a maximum of 10 points for proposed organization and staffing structure. They should describe in detail how the proposed organization, staffing, and positions or services to be contracted out would support the Early Head Start. This should include a well-delineated breakdown of how the model will be designed and implemented and the structure of any partnerships. So as we mentioned earlier, they could write this application so that they themselves are delivering these services to our child care partners and families, or they are contracting with others. So this is where you will see the partnerships play into the application. They should be describing senior management team and their capacity to provide effective oversight and accountability for the program, including their systems of monitoring and self-assessment involving the parent committees and policy council, which are all part of Early Head Start. If the program proposed engages with child development homes, they should describe the staff's knowledge and experience with that group. We've mentioned earlier they could be applying to work with centers or homes or both. So throughout the application, you should see them be very specific about how those services will be delivered to each service area. And for the last 5 points of the organizational knowledge, we are looking at the organizational networks. The applicant should list and describe existing organizational partnerships with public or private entities throughout the district, including organizations that can assist in delivering technical assistance to our child care partners. For the next category, we're looking at the process to provide and monitor adherence to the Head Start program performance standards. This is a maximum of 45 points. For the first 10 points, maximum of 10 points, we're looking at communication strategies based on the organization's prior experience in working with child development facilities. Now, I'm going to pause and say when we refer to child development facilities, we are referring to homes or centers. Again, that should be defined in the application. So for this, we're looking at them to describe how they have, or what communication strategy they have used in the past and how they will do so moving forward with centers or homes. They should describe the process that the organization will use to spread awareness to the opportunity and engage child care partners throughout the district. And if they propose programs that engage with child development homes, they need to describe any particular communication strategies that will specifically be used with the homes. The next maximum of 10 points is for the delivery of professional development. Based on experience or knowledge with similar initiatives and initial research into the landscape of the early Head Start programs, they should be describing the approach to providing teachers with continuous job-embedded professional development and coaching aligned to the DC Common Core Early Standards, the Quinn School Readiness Goals, and the Head Start Program Performance Standards. Now, the Quinn School Readiness Goals are an attachment to the RFA, so you can read those in detail as you're going through the application, and you'll know if they have referred back to them. Another maximum 10 points is the continuity of services. Applicants must demonstrate a plan to ensure Quinn services continue uninterrupted for families currently in the Quinn. And this is in addition to having a plan to communicate this to child care partners, teachers, and families. Tara mentioned earlier that there are homes and centers that are currently in the Quinn, and so the applicant should be referring to how they will continue to serve them, or if they're new to the process, how they would introduce themselves and continue those services without interruption. Another maximum of 10 points is monitoring and continuously improving delivery of services and technical assistance to the child care partners. They should be describing a methodology for monitoring the quality of services and technical assistance delivered to child care partners and the process of continuous enhancement and improvement. We want to see in detail what their monitoring procedures would be. They have to describe programmatic monitoring on the achievement of goals and activities, and adherence to terms agreed upon in notices and other agreements. They can submit a programmatic and financial reporting sample if they'd like. And I think that's all for that. Now, the last 5 points will be to develop a work plan and data collection and evaluation plans. Using the charts available in EGMS, they have to complete the work plan and data collection and evaluation plan. Tara will go over what is in EGMS with you later, but as far as substance, the work plan should include a plan for the first year of the 5-year grant, detailing project activities and indicating the alignment of the milestones and tasks with the objectives of the project. Each objective must have at least 3 activities, and they need to describe the activities and indicate the party responsible for completing them. And each activity must show the month and year in which it will be performed. Now the development, this is continuing on, so this is the 2 points that are left from the maximum 5 points, which is the evaluation and data collection plan. And for each objective, they need to describe how the data will be collected to assess and evaluate the implementation of the organizational functions on a regular basis. They should include methodology and frequency, and complete responses should be clear and name the party responsible for the ongoing activities and for the learning and program improvement. A detailed planned expenditures, financial management, and proposed budget. It's a maximum of 10 points. The first 5 points go to financial management. They should be describing the financial management and internal accounting procedures that will be used to ensure proper financial management of the grant. This should include an explanation of fiscal monitoring and tracking of expenditures according to the approved budgets and the contractual documents. The second 5 points is for the proposed budget. They need to be using the grant budget, provide a proposed budget for the first year of the 5-year grant, and a narrative description of the use of the grant funds to address the requirements of the grant. Indirect costs are allowable expenses in this proposed budget, but must be requested by contacting the program contact, section 1.1.5. All right. I'm going to switch it back over to Tara.
Okay. So these are just the attachments that are in the RFA and then what they're going to upload in EGMS. So the attachments in the RFA for you to review, I would really have you focus on the Quinn School readiness goals. The other things, the assurances, are really for the applicants and their kind of leadership or legal counsel, if they have it, to review assurances that they have to agree to if they receive the funding. In terms of the attachments that the applicants will upload in EGMS, for the purposes of the reviewers, I would focus on the resumes and or qualifications of key staff, and then the organizational chart. Everything else is really for OSSI to look at. I mean, of course, you're welcome to review, but for your purposes, I would really focus on those ones. I'm going to take a break and see if there are any questions in the chat box. If not, we're going to go ahead and keep going. What I'm going to do at this point is actually open up the test environment in EGMS and act as if I am a reader and show you guys what you're going to see. So everyone should have already gotten an email with their EGMS credentials. If you haven't, please email me today because we want to make sure that you're all set up to do your reviews. Okay, so I have some screenshots in the PowerPoint itself, but I want to just show you in kind of the environment here, in the test environment, what this looks like. So when you log into EGMS, this is going to be your initial page. You might have to hit the GMS Access Select, and you're only going to have these 2 boxes. So we use the term reviewer, but also reader. So you are a reader. You're going to hit Reader Review. Under Application, you will not have all of these. You will most likely just have Quality Improvement Net. If you are doing another application for OSSI, then you will have that one as well. Okay, so this populates the applications that have been assigned to me as the reader. So a couple things to note here. The review status. So the options, I believe, are reader notified, no conflict, review started, and completed. That is what I'm recalling at the moment. So reader notified is the very first notice that you're going to get. And the first thing you have to do is explain if you have a conflict of interest. And there is we'll get to the slide that has the specific DC government conflict of interest reference. But the definition is a personal or vested interest in the organization that submitted the application. A clear example would be if you are a current employee of one of the applicants or you're on the board, something like that. If you are in that situation, that's okay, just let us know. So assuming for this situation that Paul PCS, Public Charter School, which is the test applicant, I don't have a conflict as the reader, I'm going to click No and save conflict answers. So now you'll see the reader status changed from reader notified to no conflict. So now I'm ready to actually click here and to click review application. So when you're doing this, you need to make sure that you have your pop-up blocker off. I'm just trying to move this out of the way so you can see. I'm not able. Okay, I'm going to click review application and 2 windows are going to open up. So I hope that was clear. So this first window that opens up, this is actually the grant application that Paul Public Charter School has submitted to OSSI through Enterprise Grants Management, and this is your reader score sheet. So you can just kind of go back and forth between the 2. Where you're going to be looking to evaluate is under Program Information. So see here all of the tabs, Executive Summary, Information about Organization, Applicant Organizational Knowledge, and so forth, are also tabs in your scoring rubric. So there should be a complete one-for-one match. We try to be very transparent in our grant competitions, so they will see exactly what you see. So I can just show you under executive summary. You can see this is exactly the same text. Briefly describe the applicant, organization, and so forth. This is exactly the same text. So they are knowing exactly how you are going to evaluate them, on what basis. So they've filled in their executive summary. Pretend this is a much longer, let's pretend this is a much longer answer here. I do see that question. I'll get to the questions at the end. So pretend this is a much longer detailed answer. Here you're going to just respond, and you are going to give a very detailed response, like we mentioned, that is analytical and in full sentences and all of that. For the purposes of just showing you how to do this, I'm just going to say executive summary is complete and well done. But of course, you're not going to do that. So we're just kind of going quickly today. You're going to go through each section and subsection. So the next one is information about the organization. So I'm just going to go there in both places. So as Liz just walked you through, information about organization has 2 sections. It's 10 points, 5 each, mission, history, and then strategic logic. So here is where you put in your numbers. So I'm going to put in, let's say I love this one. I'm going to give it a 5. And again, I'm giving much more detailed responses, but just for the purposes of doing this exercise together, I'm giving very short ones. Excellent response. And then this one, let's say it was very incomplete and unclear, and I'm giving it only 1 point. Now, this does not automatically total until I hit this save/calculate button. I'm going to show you guys something a little bit later that I call the common mistakes of readers. I've actually found that sharing this with everybody and showing you the mistakes that can happen really helps everyone not make those mistakes. So one mistake that I could make is I could go back and change this to 2, but then I don't hit save complete. That new score is not recorded. And look, it still thinks that I did 5 and 1, right? So anytime you enter a score or update a score, we're going to try this again. And we're going to hit save calculate. Now my total is 7. And then each time you do that, it kind of, it records it in the scoring summary, the scoring sheet here. So just make sure that you are noting the maximum point value of each section. Something that can happen is you kind of get into a groove of doing a couple of different sections and say they're a maximum value of 5 points, 5 points, 5 points, and then something suddenly jumps to a total of 10 maximum points. You might be giving an artificially low score without realizing it. So as you're going through, you should just note the maximum value and making sure that your comments really make sense with the scores that you're putting in. If I put very incomplete and unclear and gave a 5 out of 5, that would be an issue, obviously. All right, moving forward to applicant organizational knowledge. So again, I'm just following along. I'm looking at the grant application. They've given us these responses. And then what I'm doing in these 4 subsections is evaluating and scoring. So I'm going to say this is great. I'm giving a 10 out of 10, although you're giving much more detailed responses. I'm going to say this is just okay. I'm giving 5 out of 10. This one is great. I'm going to give 9 out of 10. And then here, organizational network. So let's see what happens if I give too many points. I think it should catch it, but let's just try. Yeah, okay. So it will catch if it's too many points over the maximum. But like I said, if you put 5 out of 10 thinking it was 5 out of 5, it will not catch that. So again, I have to do 5 and I have to re-hit the save calculate to make sure that this score records, because even though it was an error, it did still do the subtotal for me. Okay. Continuing on to the process to monitor adherence to Head Start program performance standards. Again, I'm looking through the application here. I'm saying this is great. I'm giving a 10 out of 10. Delivery of professional development is good. I'm giving a 7 out of 10. Continuity of services is okay. I'm giving a 5 out of 10. This is great. I'll give a 10 out of 10. Now, one tricky thing here. The work plan and evaluation and data collection plan, you will notice they are not mentioned here in this section. The reason is because they are here. They are separate tabs. So they're not something that the applicant is entering text for. It's actually in EGMS kind of a table that we've built out for them. So this is the one that Elizabeth mentioned. They take the 6 activities, the objectives that we've described, and they give us activities, 3 activities per objective. So this is kind of what you're evaluating here. So you go through, you look, okay, objective 1, here's the description. Hopefully they explain who's doing it in here, the name of the activity, and when it's happening. So you review this. And then I'm scoring this table now. So I'm saying it was great, it made sense, so I'm giving 3 out of 3. Similar for the evaluation and data collection plan, there's not a text box for it because it's a physical exercise that they're doing in this table in EGMS. This one has separate tabs for each of the 6 objectives. So you're looking through, they break down the larger objective into a sub-objective. They give us the tools to measure the objective and the outcome, and they're doing this for each of those 6 objectives. Okay, so I'm saying this was just okay, and I'm giving a 1 out of 2. So I'm hitting Save Calculate again, and that gives me my total of 36 out of 45. Okay, next is Detailed Planned Expenditures, which in this grant application is also a tricky place. So I'm gonna show everybody this, but I anticipate that there'll be more questions about this. So this grant has both federal and local funding, and for the purposes of federal reporting, we really have to delineate those 2 budgets and then also those 2 expenditures. So what we do in EGMS is we build out a special kind of grant called a cluster grant. And you see in this application sections here, the federal and local funds are separate. So for the purposes of this competition, they are only applying for the local funding because we don't have the federal funds yet. We have to apply for them ourselves, and we don't get notice about them until about August. So once we have them, we will load those federal funds and work with whoever the chosen grant recipient is to get them in there. So you can start with the budget summary, kind of see, okay, they've applied for $20,000. In this test application, I put it all in salaries and benefits. So for the purposes of your evaluation, you're really looking at, like, does the budget match basically the program narrative? Does $20,000 in salaries and benefits, is that going to get them to everything they said they needed to do? They might have said they were going to buy supplies and diapers and formula and do physical renovations on the child care partner. So where is that budgeted? So you're really just looking at, like, does it make sense against the story that they've put together in their proposed application? So this is how you are evaluating the second section, the proposed budget. So I'm going to say doesn't explain how they will achieve the grant objective. So I don't like this budget, and I'm going to give it a 0 out of 5. For financial management, so these are just, these drop downs will get you to the budget specifically. The main application is in this quality improvement network section. And I'm just trying to go backwards to find you the financial management tab. It's over here. So there's a little bit of kind of driving that you have to do in EGMS. So that's why I wanted to record this so you guys can just see where everything is. So all the really narrative sections where they're entering information is under this program information. This is really the most important tab for you in the EGMS applications. And then also the application section, you go to local to get that budget. So the financial management is very clear. If they have any partners, we would want them to explain kind of how that would work as well in the financial management section, how they monitor contracts and pay them. Now, I'm going to make a purposeful mistake. So under total, I did not hit Save Calculate, so there's a blank score. I just want to show you what happens if we do that. So there's nothing here. So what I can do is I can still say Calculate Totals, and it's 72. If this happens, you didn't really mean 72 out of 100, so the score is artificially lower. So it actually will let you submit to OSSI like this, so this is just a mistake to really be aware of. So I'm going to go back here and see it didn't save because I didn't hit Save Calculate here. So we're just going to go back and say, great, 5, doesn't explain narrative, and a 0. Okay, now we hit Save Calculate, and now it kind of transposes that total score of 5 into the scoring summary. Okay, so I'm going to hit Calculate Totals, and I'm going to do a couple things. If I have some overall comments on the application that didn't fit anywhere else that I think are still important for OSSI to note, I'm going to put them here. I'm going to check that this 77 out of 100 kind of represents my feelings about the grant. If that seems low, I'm going to go back and see where I dinged them points. If it seems too high, I'm going to go back and see where I was too generous. Now, I'm going to make another purposeful mistake to show you a very common error with readers. So I hit Calculate Totals, but I did not hit Save Page. If I don't do that and I go to Close Browser, Return to Reader To-Do List, I have a blank score. You can submit at this point, and if you submit, it will come up as a blank score. Every time I need to send things back to the readers, there will be 3 readers for each grant application. I have to send it back to all 3 readers at once. I can't just send it back to one person, and then everybody has to go in and resubmit. So this is just a one to really be careful about. If your total score is blank, please don't submit. I don't know why, but EGMS will let you submit with a blank score, and it is a difficult situation. So I'm going to go back into Review Application, select. You just really want to make sure that score is recorded here. So going back here, again in my scoring summary, this time I'm going to hit Calculate Totals again. And I like that 77. It reflects my feelings on the application. And this time I hit Save Page. So now I'm going to just go back and show you. See, now that 77 is there. So we have review started and we have 77. I'm happy with this, and I want to go ahead and submit to OSSI. So I'm going to select this, and I'm going to hit Submit. And then it says it changes to completed. So I hope that is clear to kind of walk you through what this process looks like. I have some screenshots in the PowerPoint, but these are really just to walk you through the slow version of what we just did. So just to kind of explain one more time, so the initial review status you're going to have is reader notified. You're going to respond if you have a conflict of interest or not. I've said no, I clicked Save Conflict Answers, and then my review status changes to no conflict. And this is the definition of a conflict of interest. This is a screenshot to show you that you need those 2 tabs. So make sure your pop-up blocker is off for the purposes of this. And then one of them is going to be up here, it's your review checklist. And then this one that says, that has all of these tabs and the application section drop down, that's their actual application that you're reviewing and looking at. Okay, so this is just examples kind of showing you the structure of the scoring rubric, the basis for evaluation, the criteria, and then that you need to include a response and hit Save Page. So these are just more samples and hitting Save Calculate. Yep, so making sure that that 8 populates down here. And then once you submit, it changes from review started to completed. So those are the points of those screenshots. There was a question: if someone is, if an applicant is a former employer, would that be a conflict of interest? If that happens, just let me know, because every situation is different, and we can run it by our ethics lawyer at OSSI just to make sure. Because there's very specific policies about, how long ago did you work there? What was your role there? If you were the early Head Start administrator 6 months ago, we might have questions. Or if you worked in a completely different department 10 years ago. So if that happens, just let me know, and let me know some specifics so we can either assign it to somebody else or clear you that there's no conflict of interest. So these are some of the common errors that I just tried to show you, and I'm just going to kind of show you some screenshots. So always hit that Save Calculate on the bottom of each tab. On the scoring summary, there's Calculate Totals and Save Page separately. Calculate Totals is going to give you a subtotal out of 100 points, but you have to hit that Save Page, or it's not really going to record that score in your reader to-do list, and that's what comes to me as the competitive grant administrator. So you really want to hit Calculate Totals and then Save Page. If you change any scores, you need to go back and hit the Save Calculate and then do that same thing on the scoring summary again. Make sure no boxes are blank on the scoring summary tab or on the individual tabs. Make sure you don't exceed the maximum possible available points, because I showed you if we did a 7 out of 5, it still subtotaled the amount, even though it kind of gave you an error. And then similarly, make sure that your scores aren't artificially low. If you think something is a maximum of 5, but it's actually 10, so you give someone 5 out of 10. I had that situation happen, and a reader was like, oh no, I actually meant 10 out of 10. So just take note of the maximum point value in each section, because it varies. And then make sure that the total score was recorded in that space on the reader to-do list, so don't send a blank score. So these are just some screenshots of kind of things that could happen. So here the scores could be entered, but if you don't click, they could be entered and changed. So if I do 3 and 5, save calculate is a total of 8. If I change my 5 to 4 and I don't hit that save calculate, we showed that the new subtotal won't be there. So make sure you hit save calculate after entering or editing any scores. And this is just a quick note about the buttons. And then we did this error together as well. A score higher than the maximum, it's still going to calculate in that subtotal. So you need to correct and then hit save calculate again. So it will give you an error for a score that's higher than the maximum. We did this one as well. If you only click calculate totals but not save page, it's not really recording the score where it needs to be recorded, and we don't want that to happen. This is the same thing. Also, we want you, if you have those overall comments, we want to make sure those are recorded too. Yep, quick note about what to put in overall comments. If any subtotals are blank, so these are all filled in, but if this 6 out of 10 wasn't here, you can ignore the specific text in here. This is from a previous grant competition just to show you the errors, so hopefully that's not confusing. But if this 6 out of 10 was blank, it would still let you submit. So just make sure that nothing is blank here. And then, like I said, I wanted to make sure that that 77 out of 100 that I entered really reflected my overall view on the application, and I was comfortable with it. But if it felt too high or too low, maybe go back and say, oh, I don't know why it came out as 77. I actually really liked this. I want to give it a higher score. And then that last one, my biggest fear when the blank scores get submitted to OSSE, it's very common. So just make sure that you see the total score populated here under total score before you go ahead and submit. Those are the main tips that I wanted to highlight for you all. If you have any questions, I would say contact me first, and then I can usually troubleshoot some quick EGMS problems. And if it's something that I can't handle, I know when I can pull in the tech team and put in a ticket for you. Okay, so in terms of next steps, and I also want to clarify kind of what you can do now, because I'm not sending you the applications until Friday. So in terms of what you can do now, read the RFA, which we walked through the responsibilities and then also the scoring rubric, which are the most relevant sections for you, but read it one more time on your own and make sure you really don't have any questions. We also just published the frequently asked questions on that same page, on the Quinn grant page. So take a look at those. If you have any conflicts that you think you can anticipate now, if you know someone who's definitely applying and you just worked there, or you're a consultant for them or something like that, definitely let me know now so we can kind of deal with that. You should have your EGMS credentials. If you don't, please let me know. So test that you can get into EGMS. Go to grants.osse.dc.gov, which is the link that should be in the email, and test your credentials to make sure that they're working. On Friday, I will send the applications to 3 reviewers, so 3 reviewers per grant application. We might not need all of you, but because we have a good number of readers, I'm hoping not to have to assign more than 1 or 2 applications per reviewer because they're long. So because we're only giving you each 1 to 2, oh, good question. How many applications do you anticipate receiving? I would say, if I was going to guess, probably 15, based on what I've seen so far and how many I know are in there right now. No more than 15, but probably something more like 8. So like 8 to 15 is what I would anticipate. Please give us your scores and your rubrics by August 23rd. And then if that's the variance that I talked about. So if there's that variance, we do have to do a facilitated discussion. So a facilitated discussion involves say Paul Public Charter School, I'm one of 3 readers. I will get on a conference call with the other 2 readers and the competitive grant administrator, and we will just talk through the main areas of difference. Usually what ends up happening, as often in debates, is that people just get further entrenched in their views, which is fine. But we are required to have the facilitated discussion just to let you guys know that you really disagreed on one. It's usually just 1 or 2 areas. So if everyone confirms to the competitive grant administrator, which is me, in writing that they do not want to revise their scores, then we just move on. Sometimes, rarely, someone is convinced, maybe I reviewed that too harshly and I didn't think of this angle, or maybe I was too focused on grammar or spelling or something like that, and I'd like to change my score. When that happens, I have to give it back to everybody, and the person that's changing will make their changes, and then the other 2 people will just resubmit as is. Once you have done your review and OSSE deems that it's satisfactorily completed with comments and you've participated in any needed facilitated discussions, we let AEI know, which is the contractor that will be paying you $150 per review. And then we select our winners, and we might share your comments with the applicants, but it won't have your name, so not to worry about that. This is what I was mentioning in terms of this facilitated discussion. So it's giving me these scores in red because they're way too different. So I think it is actually a difference of 15 points then. Yeah. So if the difference is here, it will just light up in red for me, and then I will let everybody that worked on the Capital City Public Charter School application in this case know that we need to have a quick discussion. These are the next steps. So these have your specific dates that I actually mentioned at the beginning of our call. So we're getting you the applications. We're going to get you the applications on Friday, and then you have 2 weeks, but if you can do it sooner, please do it sooner. And then you might have to participate in a facilitated discussion on the 26th, and then we will announce our awards. If it's helpful to you, one of my colleagues in Health and Wellness actually did a webinar similar to what we're doing right now. It's going to take me maybe a day to get this recording posted on the OSSE website, and I will send you the link of this recording and the PowerPoint. But if you want something more immediate, you can take a look at the Healthy Tots grant, and she'll just walk you through those EGMS functions because they're the same across every grant. That's it. I'm going to go ahead and turn off the recording, and then we can answer some specific questions.